Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, a former C-suite executive turned business and life coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for the things that matter most. Each week, I'm going to teach you from my performance and happiness formula what it takes to rise to the top without burnout and overwhelm. Work less, make more, and design a life you love. That's what we do in the 5% Club. Let's go. Here's what we're covering in today's episode. I'm taking you inside the private dinner I hosted the night before the 50 Women to Know in Texas Gala and sharing the conversation that happened when 9 powerful women finally got in a room where they could just be. I'm going to introduce you to Karen, my inner critic, and then I'm going to show you something even more important: how to meet your inner guide, the voice on the other side, the one that already knows. We're going to talk about the light switch in my living room and what it taught me about how often we silence the voice that knows exactly what we want, just to avoid making things difficult for someone else. We're going to talk about the word I chose for this year, resolute, and what it actually means to move through the world from that place. And we're going to make a commitment together, the same one we made at the dinner table. If you have ever softened what you wanted to make it easier for someone else, this episode is for you. All right, let's get into it. A few weeks ago, I won an award called the 50 Women to Know in Texas. It was a beautiful night in Dallas. My husband was there, and 9 of my clients flew in from across the country just to be in that room. Not because they had to, because that's what this community does. The 5% community. The night before the gala, I hosted a private dinner for all of them. And at some point, the way it only happens when powerful women are finally in a room together, not needing to perform, the conversation got so real. We went around the table and I asked everyone one question. What is your inner critic's name? Now, here's what I want you to notice about that question. I didn't ask, do you have an inner critic? Because I already knew the answer. Every single woman at that table was a high-performing leader, a director, a VP, a CEO, women who were, by every external measure, extraordinary. And every single one of them had a voice in their head that had been working overtime for years. All of these 6-figure plus women. And so we named it, and we shared that name with everyone else. I do this with all of my one-on-one clients, and we find the name, but they hadn't said them out loud to anybody but me before. And so this time we went around and every single person shared their name. My inner critic's name is Karen. Original, I know. Karen shows up when I'm about to do something big, when I'm about to ask for what I actually want, when I'm about to say the true thing instead of the safe thing. And Karen has a lot of opinions about all of it. She is very thorough, very committed, completely convinced that her job is to protect me from embarrassment, rejection, and the possibility that someone somewhere might not like me. Karen means well, but Karen does not get to run the show. And here's what happened when the women at that table named their inner critics. Something shifted in the room because when you name the voice, you stop being the voice. You get distance and you realize that's Karen talking. That's not me. And the fact that you can admit this in a room with others makes you realize you're not alone. You're not the only one dealing with negative self-talk. And when we name it and we separate ourselves from it, we get to know that that's just an inner dialogue that is trying to protect us. And I like to talk to you guys a lot about the neuroscience behind this. And basically, your survival brain wants to do 3 things. So it wants to seek pleasure, it wants to eliminate pain, and it wants to conserve energy. So when you're going off and you're trying to do something new and scary, it's basically saying, Absolutely not. This sounds like it could be painful, and I'm not guaranteed success, and I could have failure. So I'm going to spend energy and then be sad? That sounds like a terrible idea. And so we have to talk to our inner critic and we have to tell it, I know this seems scary because it's new, but we're going to do it and we're going to be okay. That's Karen talking. That's not me. Separating out you from the voice in your head. And as I have told you, the most successful and happiest people know how to manage their mind. And you cannot manage something that you haven't named and you cannot connect to that voice is different than you. So before we go any further, tell me, what is your inner critic's name? Take a second. Seriously. Give her a name. Negative Nancy, Karen. You can name her after somebody that from childhood that was always kind of rude to you. Any name you want. It usually helps if it's the same gender as you. That just helps you with association. But come up with any name that you want. Write it down if you're not driving or walking. I know a lot of you walk and listen or drive and listen. All right. Because we're going to need it in just a minute. Now, we're going to talk about what happened next in our conversation and the next step for you. And this is the part that I want you to really hear. After everyone named their inner critic, I asked a second question. Have you named your inner guide? Silence. Because everyone knew their inner critic name immediately. She's been loud their whole lives. But the inner guide, the voice on the other side, the other side of the shoulder, they'd never named her. So we named her too. Some of the women actually named their inner critic Shayla, which I think is a little silly, but I'm also find that to be a very nice compliment. Their goal was, they said that I asked myself all the time, what would Shayla do? And it's because they really see me as somebody who truly loves myself, who is empowered in this world, who lives a big and beautiful life, and who worries less and less every day about other people's opinions, desires, and wants of me. But instead, I follow my own moral compass and live life my way. And so I was incredibly honored by that, and I'll accept it. I do have this gorgeous life, and I have evolved so much from doing the work that I truly am the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's because I have worked on my mindset. I have worked on following my inner guide and turning down the volume on that inner critic. And so we need you to get your own inner guide because she's already in there. She's been there your whole life. And here's how I think about the inner guide. Your inner guide knows the truth. She wants what you want. She knows what you like. She knows what you actually think before the good girl programming kicks in and tells you to soften it, shrink it, or swap it for something that's more acceptable. One of the sayings I tell my clients all the time is, if you want it, it's right. We are told so much that we should follow somebody else's playbook and that they get to decide what is acceptable for us to like. It'll be the smallest thing. It'll be even clothes or food. And women feel like they're not supposed to like or want what they want. There's an exercise that I heard that a coach did where she asked executive women to name things that they like. And they could not even get started on the list. So she started giving them options and using your senses. What are things that you see that you like, things that you touch that you like, things that you taste that you like, so that they could start trying to come up with a list of things that they like. Because for so long, we're thinking about everybody else's needs that we lose the plot. We forget that we're the main character of our story, and we forget what we even enjoy, what we like and what we want. And it's time to come back to her, y'all. It's time to come back to your knowing, to your inner guide, to being resolute. She is the voice that said, you're worth more than that salary. She is the voice that told me where the light switch should go. I'll tell you that story in a second. And she is the voice that said, this relationship isn't right for you. She is the voice that said, you are built for more than this. And what is the 95% you to that voice? It teaches you to override her. It teaches you to replace her knowing with a question. But what will people think? Am I allowed to want that? Is that too much? Am I being nice? Am I being a good girl? And over time, it keeps overriding her and she gets quieter. Not because she's gone, because she's learned that you're not listening. She's learned that she's not accepted in this world. And so the word that I chose for this year is resolute. Every year, me and my husband choose 3 words that we're going to guide our year by. And our 3 are centered, resolute, and generate. Those are my 3 words for 2026. And resolute is the word that lives right here, in that space between your inner guide speaking and you actually saying it out loud. Resolute means completely settled, not aggressive, not loud, just decided. No explanation required. No apology attached. You see, your inner guide is resolute by nature. She already knows. The work is learning to trust her again, to let her come out, to light the flame again. So what is your inner guide's name? And what does she know right now about your career, about your life, about your next move? What does she know that Karen has been talking you out of? All right, I want to tell you a story about my living room. We just had a new fireplace and some built-ins installed. Beautiful custom wood, the kind of project you save up for and can't wait to see finished. And when they were done, the contractor told me there was a problem. No one had planned for where the light switch should go. He gave me 2 options. He could cut into the back of this brand new wood that's put in the built-in, or he could move the whole unit down and lose about 8 inches of cabinet space in already pretty narrow cabinets. And I thought, why can't it just go over there by the other outlets on the other side of that doorway? My inner guide said it immediately, clear as day. But guess what? I didn't say that out loud because I didn't want to put him out. He'd already done all this work. I didn't want to seem difficult. I didn't want to be the high maintenance client who keeps moving the goalpost. I didn't want him to have extra work. Now I was paying a lot of money for this project, and somehow I still felt like I needed to make it easy for him. So I said, fine, cut into the wood. I'll put something pretty in front of it. My mom calls them pretties. I don't know if you guys ever said that. Like, I'll put a pretty in front of it. And my designer came over, and she's my friend, and she looked at it and she goes, absolutely not. We are not cutting into this beautiful wood. If you don't have any other options, we'll tuck the switch behind the cabinet door where it won't show. My husband came home and I told him what the plan was, and he looked at that solution and he goes, why would I open a lower cabinet and reach inside of that to turn on a light? Didn't make sense, right? It's kind of an awkward thing. Who does that for a light switch? And he goes, that would look really like it wasn't part of the house design or thought through. Why wouldn't they just put it with the other switch? Yeah, he was right. And that was my first instinct. My inner guide knew, but I didn't say it. Because Karen said, don't put him out. Be a good girl. Make it easy. And here's what I want to say about that. We worry about the smallest things. Whether our hairdresser likes us because we weren't talkative enough on a Tuesday. Whether a colleague thinks that we're too direct because we said the true thing in a meeting. Whether we didn't volunteer for enough and now someone thinks we're not a team player. We're spending enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy managing other people's perceptions of us. Even me, after I've done the work. And meanwhile, look around. The people making the biggest moves in the world are not lying awake at all, wondering if everyone likes them. So we have to, as women, stop spending our energy on that. You are a good person. You have good values. You are doing good work. It is time to know what you want and to say it. Doesn't have to be loud, doesn't have to be aggressive, but it's going to be resolute. I am sure I am confident, and I am resolute in saying what I want directly. Queen Elizabeth had a saying, don't complain, don't explain. That's good, right? We don't owe anyone an explanation for what we want. We just know, and we say it. The 95% default. This is what I want to name honestly. There's a default setting for women in today's world. And if you don't consciously opt out of it, you opt in by default. Nobody set you down and said, here's the plan for your life. Here's how exhausted you should be. Here's how small you should make yourself. Here's how much guilt you should carry. Nobody said that out loud. But the programming runs so deep that most women end up there anyway. The default looks something like this. You work like you don't have kids, and you parent like you don't have a job. You say yes when you mean no because you don't want to let anyone down. You carry the mental load, the emotional load, and all the invisible labor on top of a full career. You run on empty and you call it dedication. You override your inner guide every single day and wonder why you feel so disconnected from yourself. You're exhausted, you get sick, feel taken advantage of. You made your goals smaller than they were supposed to be. And you will look back with regret on a life that was technically successful, but never felt fully yours. This is what the 95% default produces. Not because those women are weak, not because they made bad choices, because no one told them that they could choose differently. And everyone around them was doing it too. I believe you actually can decide to opt out. You have to look at that default setting, the expectations and the playbooks that the entire world has for you that will have you running on empty. And you have to look at it and say, I see you. I understand how I got here, and I'm not opting in anymore. And then you have to decide what you are opting into instead. Because here's the thing about the 5% life. It is not an accident. It does not happen to you. You build it on purpose, with intention, one resolute decision at a time. Okay, before we get into the commitment that I want to talk about, one more thing discussed at that dinner, having your own back. Not just when you're winning, not just when everything goes right, but having your own back when you mess up, when you disappoint someone, when you let yourself down, when Karen is having her loudest day and you give her the mic for a little while. Here's the question I asked at the table. If your best friend, someone you love completely, someone who has your back no matter what, if she had a hard week, if she made a mistake, a genuine bad mistake, handled something terribly, would you stop loving her? Of course not. You would love her anyway. You would be honest with her. You might tell her what you saw, but you would not withdraw your love. You would not decide she was fundamentally unworthy because she had a moment. You would love her unconditionally. Now, it's time we do that for ourselves. Do you do it for yourself? When you make a mistake? When Karen is the loudest? When you have a week you're not proud of? Do you extend yourself the same love and grace you would give the person you love the most? Or do you pile on even more? Loving yourself unconditionally does not mean you stop growing. It does not mean you stop caring about doing better. It does not mean you condone your mistakes. It means you remain your ally through all of it. And here's what I want women to know about the women who have their own backs. They take more risks. Because failure doesn't mean they'll abandon themselves. They recover faster because they're not spending energy on shame spirals. They make bolder decisions because they trust that they'll still be okay if everything goes sideways. And they listen to their inner guide because they stopped needing Karen's protection. Your inner guide is resolute. She already knows. She's been waiting for you to have her back. So here is what we decided at the dinner table in Dallas. And I want you to make this commitment with us right now. We are not opting in, not to the exhaustion, not to the guilt, not to the impossible expectations, not to making ourselves smaller so everyone else is more comfortable, not to overriding our inner guide every time Karen has an opinion. We're opting into something different, the 5% life. And here's what that looks like. We know what we want. We say it clearly, completely, without apology, and without explanation. We don't complain and we don't explain. We are resolute. We are good and we know it. We are not auditioning for our own lives. We do not need constant validation from everyone around us to feel worthy of what we want. We already are. We have our own backs. We love ourselves the way we love our best friends, unconditionally. Through the mess and the mistakes and the moments we're not proud of, we do not abandon ourselves when things get hard. We listen to our inner guide. We have named her. We check in with her. We ask her what we actually want, not what we should want, not what people expect, not what measures up to someone else's measuring stick, but what we actually want. We proactively seek joy. We design it in right now. Not after the kids graduate, not after we hit that number, not when things calm down, but right now because we deserve happiness this year, this month, this week. We build the life we want, not the default, not the playbook that was written for us, the life we actually want with the career, the income, the relationships, the adventures, the whole beautiful, epic thing. And we do all of this while making more money, having more impact, and loving our whole damn life. This is the 5%. Are you in? Because at the end of that dinner in Dallas, when Ariana came downstairs and sat with those 9 women and just lit up the room, I feel like crying. I thought about what she was watching. She was watching women who choose differently, women who opted out. I got choked up. Women who were building something on purpose. And I thought, this is what I want her to grow up and see as normal. We're doing this not just for us, but for our children. I don't want her to see the 95% default. I want her to see what is possible when we opt in to the 5%. And as I close, I want to give my deepest, most heartfelt thank you to all of my clients that came and joined and celebrated me that weekend. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Thank you. So, cheers to the 5%. Before I let you go, 2 things to do before the end of the week. First, name your inner critic. Write it down. She's been running the show long enough. It's time to know who you're dealing with. Second, name your inner guide, the voice on the other side, the one that already knows. Give her a name. Ask her one question this week. What do I actually want right now that I've been overriding? Then listen, not to Karen, but to her. If this episode landed for you, if you have found yourself nodding or laughing or feeling a little called out, I want to hear about it. Find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM and tell me, what is your inner critic's name? And what did your inner guide say that you haven't said out loud yet? I read every single one. And if you're ready to do more than just listen, if you're actually ready to live a 5% life, the Performance and Happiness Lab is opening for our fall cohort. And so we are taking people onto the wait list now so that you can be the first to know when those doors open. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the kind of leader who keeps choosing herself even when it's uncomfortable. That is exactly what the 5% looks like. I will see you next week. Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to make more, work less, and design a life you love, then go to shaylaking.com and join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when there's openings to work with me in one-on-one coaching or the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group container where you will learn to be a high-performing, highly paid executive who loves your whole life. I'll see you there.